There we go. The governance question, which Francis and Hema, you could chime in on this one as well. You mentioned 3 E's: effective, efficient, and equitable. I mean, I got the order correct. But I'd be very interested to hear more about, how that interacts with your point on governance, right? Particularly around efficiency. We talk a lot about getting more from the land, getting more agricultural productivity, getting more productivity from timber plantations, et cetera. I think I hear in your comments some concerns that pushing on that front alone is not necessarily going to get us in the right place. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, both of you, on particularly on the sequencing, if you will, or how should we think about the governance architecture that has to be in place before this efficiency and effectiveness actually does some good?
Well, there's no short answer to that question, but I will heroically try. In terms of sequencing, I think the first thing that we need to start, if we haven't already, is in the capacity building agenda, because it takes a long time, and the longer we delay investing, the longer we put off the ability to do this. And so, for example, to go back to the example I gave earlier, our research on the reforestation fund, it's clear that there are a lot of basic capacity needs just related to, accounting and auditing and tools and skills that you need to have to be transparent in managing funds. And those capacities need to be developed at the national level and all the way down to the village level. And so we just need to get started on that capacity building agenda to be able to implement various bits of governance. But I think more generally, and particularly with respect to the issue that you raise on the degree to which improving productivity will solve the problem and what else we need to do, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to that. A lot of the discussion we heard yesterday was about the importance of increasing productivity and intensifying existing land use as the solution. And while I think we can all agree that increasing productivity is a great in itself and something that we should be doing, I think we actually have quite a bit of research already in hand that it's not enough. And depending on relative prices and other constraints related to land availability, increasing productivity can actually increase the rate of deforestation. So increasing productivity is not in and of itself an answer to decreasing deforestation or a tool for REDD. So what does it need to be combined with? Well, as another speaker has already mentioned, law enforcement needs to be part of it so that there is a level playing field. But it needs to be law enforcement that, if I may, is pro-poor law enforcement. What we see is that often when law enforcement, there's a crackdown on illegal logging, for example, it's the little guy with the chainsaw that gets hauled in and not the big guy with the bank account in Singapore. And so we need to make sure that our governance tools meet the 3rd E, equitable criteria. I also think that as a general principle for governance, not only having all voices at the table in various decision-making realms, but also having the different capacities of different players involved can help even meet the efficiency objective, which you ask about. For example, one of the big challenges in REDD is this monitoring, reporting, verification, and we tend to run quickly to the, high-tech, space-based kinds of remote sensing ways of measuring forest cover and changes in carbon stocks. But in fact, there's a lot of mileage to be gained in working with local communities and giving them simple tools for measuring trees and algorithms for estimating carbon stock and changes in carbon, which is actually probably a lot cheaper and can be accurate enough for the purposes that we need for REDD. So I think thinking about how to involve communities, whether it's in fire protection, control of illegal logging, monitoring of carbon stocks, is going to go a long way to meeting all 3 of the E's, the efficiency, the effectiveness, and the equity.
Sorry, can I make a quick comment on that? Sure. I love the 3 E's, effective, equitable, efficient. Seeing as we're at the B4E, I thought we'd add a 4th E. Easy. Because I tell you, man, who would have expected I'd have to spend $4 million to validate and verify a REDD project? I mean, it's getting so convoluted. So 4th E, journalists in the crowd, that's easy. Sorry, continue, please.
Does that get the C4 endorsement on the...
C4E endorsement.
Very good.
Yep.
Do you want to add that? Should we go to?
No, I'd like to add.
Please go ahead. Yes.
In addition to what Francis said, because I fully agree with that, especially also on the part of the illegal logging, the law enforcement that is needed for that. I would like to add that another one is from a community and an indigenous group's perspective, free informed consent. When things are happening in the forest that you are actually living in, and free and informed consent is one of the requirements in the FSC system, then you need to be engaged. If you don't know what is happening, it is very different for local communities to engage in what is actually a carbon resource and their resource for living. So I think on a more operational level, models like this are crucially important, also in a RED Plus system. Another one is dispute resolution, and that is actually directly connected to that. Dispute resolution systems should be in place to make sure that companies who come in a dispute know how to handle these disputes in a coherent and credible way. And this is exactly the same for local communities. So not everything can be done, and I think this is also mentioned today and yesterday, not everything can be done on a government level. And we need to acknowledge this, and that is where certification systems such as FSC can step in and try to provide instruments to assist and make it easier, Dorji.
And cheaper. Very good. Thank you for that. We do have a few minutes left, and I wanted to leave some time if there are any questions from the floor to address to the panel. And if you do have a question, please, if you could identify yourself and identify which panelist you would like to address your question to. It's a little hard to see in the back. Very good. In the back, please. There should be a mic. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Bustar Maidar. I'm from Greenpeace. And I would like to ask a question to the panelists, especially for Mr. Dorji-san. Maybe just simple question. How to avoid the company who actually is doing massive deforestation and release a lot of greenhouse gases to not using REDD for their greenwashing. Because if the reducing emission from deforestation only for greenwashing, it means we are just doing business as usual. Nothing changed. And secondly, also question for the for Rajawali Group. What I'm seeing clearly in your concession in Rio, for example, you're opening the natural forest in Kampar Peninsula, and that's absolutely also releasing a lot of amount of greenhouse gases. And yeah, what you're doing with that? Thank you.
Yep. Sure, I'll take the lead. Sure, please. So, first of all, I have a deep and profound respect and love for Greenpeace and all of the green groups that are particularly vigilant and passionate. I came to a crossroads myself. I realized that actually I'm more of a pragmatist. So where I fall into the green spectrum is more about just trying to get meaningful results by engaging businesses. And this was something which actually was a personal journey for myself. So the perspectives which we share, I think that we're still trying to get to the same outcome. But we're just taking different approaches. So for me, for example, what's interesting is we started with the project, just to give you the background. And, you know, it taken us a few years to get to the point where we were comfortable working with, companies like paper and pulp companies and plantations to look at REDD. When we finally got to that space, we realized that actually in a country like Indonesia, which is an emerging economy, there's no question you're going to have to juggle or balance economic and poverty alleviation and